Okay, welcome to a new part for the channel. I thought I'd just sort of do kind of hopefully a weekly update just to see what's going on in between build videos. So nothing's changing from that point of view, but obviously it takes a while to build a model, so in between it's worth looking at a few things that I've got on the go. And first off, we're looking at a collection of stuff that I've got in. Most of this I've bought myself. Some of it's been given to the channel, and there's a few kits down here that have been sent to the channel as well, which I got a while ago. I've been out of it for a couple of weeks because I mentioned, if you saw the update video, had a tooth out, so that knocked me back a little bit. So we're just getting back to it in the last week, and now I think it's time to get on with some videos. So there's been a few things going on paint wise, and I've been looking to get in on that. So first off, I've got a selection of the Tamiya Lacquer paints here, which I wanted to give a try. So I've just got some standard colours really. So we've got flat black, semi-gloss black, and then just a red and a yellow. So that's really just to aid me where I like to use lacquer paints, and I'd use red, yellow and purple for a certain subject matter that I tend to model. And there's the purple as well that I always also picked up. So where I want to use that and get stuff drying a little bit faster, I have been using Tamiya, and when I'm used to lacquers, they take a little bit long to dry. So not that I'm not using the Tamiya acrylics, and we'll get onto that in a minute. So I'm interested to see, like I said, how these are going to go. So I'll be using these over builds over the next few weeks, and some of the stuff that I'm doing. So where I've got some silver paint work, so I can easily use the semi-gloss black, and possibly mix that up in areas with some flat black and stuff, trying to get some different things happening with the metallics. And speaking of metallics, I've also got in the new Super Metallic range. So we've got Super Metallic 2, which is the Mr. Hobby or Mr. Colour Gun's new range of Super Metallics. Now I have used... no, I haven't. No, what I used to use was the buffable metallics. So I've just kind of run on with these, and I've got Super Fine Silver 2 and Super Iron 2, just to kind of see. I mean, they look almost the same, but I'm guessing once they're actually out of the air gun and onto a model, they're going to start looking different. So that's something that should be of interest. And also picked up the new selection of Tamiya paints. They've extended the range a little bit. So this is going back to my armour roots here. What we've basically got is XF87, which is just an IJN grey. I'm a bit obsessive with the old Tamiya acrylics. I've got the whole range, so I wanted to fill them in. But here they've done, these seem to be a kind of more accurate, or from their point of view, Tamiya's point of view, a more accurate attempt at the yellow, green and brown colour on German late war armoured vehicles. So I find them a go-to paint. They're quite good for filling gaps when you just need a colour, not specifically running through instructions and colour call-outs and stuff, and it's very easy to mix. And also you know, I tend, if I'm doing German armour, it's nearly all desert yellow or dark yellow if it's late in the war. So it was worth giving a try. And I heard these were coming out probably a year ago, so I've finally been able to get hold of them. Another thing as well, interior green for US Air Force was only available in this set. This is C-351, and it came as part of the World War II interior aircraft set. They have now released these colours. They're starting to filter into the UK. So this is it now on the main release, C-351. And this also goes for, I think they've done a new Dark Earth colour for RAF Dark Earth, and they've also they're releasing from their other set. I've got this up here. They're releasing the the gross sea blue, as it were, which used to be in this set. Now this set I can't seem to get anymore. This is basically intermediate blue, grey blue and glossy sea blue, or I forget what the designations of them are now, but it's basically, that's the Hellcat blue, all the late war Pacific blue, and then these two go together to make the early Pacific. So as a set they're quite good, and it's nice that they've released those. And I've just used up the interior green, so I've got in 2 lots of those to fill that gap. You may also be able to see here that I've got a couple pots here of the old Mr. Surfacer and Mr. Dissolve putty. So I do like to use Mr. Surfacer, and I've gone for 3 selections, although actually none of these are actually specifically Mr. Surfacer. So you've got Mr. Finishing Surfer, which is a very fine sort of primer coat, like finish primer coat, and then you've got a primer surfacer coat as well, which is like it's all the same sort of thing, but it's just a lot thinner and finer pigment. I've also got up on the shelf Mr. Surfacer 500, which is good as a filler, and Mr. Surfacer 1200, which is good for finishing seams. And then I've always wanted to try this. This is Mr. Dissolved putty. It's all Mr. This is a bit like, I believe, a bit like a sort of cross between sort of sprue goo and melted thinner in cellulose, lacquer thinner, that sort of thing. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, who knows what it's like, but I like to try some of this as we're building some of these short run kits. It all helps. And then lastly, well, not lastly, sorry, but next, we've now got the new word from Mr. Hobby on how you're meant to be using Mr. Leveling thinners, rapid thinners and standard thinners, and apparently they advise to use rapid thinner for anything that isn't a gloss finish. So contrary to popular belief, if you're cutting Mr. Leveling thinner with a Tamiya flat acrylic, for instance, actually they seem to suggest that you're going to get better results if you use a rapid thinner, which is very quick drying, so it gases off extremely quickly, gives you a nice matte finish, but it's also a smooth matte finish. Whereas if you have the longer drying time with the Mr. Leveling thinner, it is meant to give you problems. Now, I've not noticed any problems with any of it, but apparently Mr. Leveling thinner is best used with a glossy finish where you want a smoother coat and you get a longer drying time, and it really sort of sinks down and gives you that smoothness and shininess. So that's something we're going to give a go as well throughout the next few builds. So on all the matte colours I'll now be using rapid thinner, and I'll let you know in the videos if I notice any difference. And then we've got glue and glaze as well. So I was starting to get run out of Mr. Oh, here we go. We're stuck in the Mr. phase in Micro Industries Crystal Clear, which is a PVA glue for want of a better description. And I just saw this in the same supplier where I was getting this from. This is actually Ventress models on eBay, and they've also got a shop. I must admit they were absolutely exceptional service. I've got to say that. I bought these, they didn't send them, but I forgot to add in a paint, and he chucked that in the box, no problem, and it was next day delivery. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything better. So I thought I'd give this a go and see if there's any difference. Deluxe Materials seem to be promoting themselves as a more with the rocket car glue and things like that, they're more of a sort of professional version of PVA glue. Who knows? Hopefully this isn't just PVA wood glue in a different bottle. So we'll see how it goes, see if it's any shinier, see if it is good for actually creating windows, which is what it says, for making crystal clear windows, bonding canopies, most plastics. So who knows? Micro Crystal Clear isn't so good, in my opinion, at making windows. They tend to be pretty blurry. Now, as well as all of that, I've also been sent by MIG. I was talking to the guys at MIG. I sent them an email just as part of a few emails I was sending out to different companies, just to see if they wanted to, you know, donate a few small things to the channel so we could have a look at it. And they were kind enough to send this little selection across, which they felt was more specific to the content on the channel. So I'm interested in using the putty, because I've seen that, and you know, just I don't mind using all sorts of different fillers. So it'd be interesting to see how this is going to be any different or any better, worse, whatever, to different fillers that are useful. There's the oil brusher set. Now I must admit I've never used oil brushes, and I did have a look when they came, and it's a little bit like a makeup brush, only in, well, with a kind of oil substance, I imagine. So it's thinned oil paint, I'm guessing, in there. So I'm going to read up on this so I got an idea of what it is. But there you can see there's a brush, so you just brush it on, and hopefully that's going to then melt away with actual it goes all over the fingers, all over the lid, Typical, and it's getting worse and worse the more I turn it. But hopefully that's going to be useful when we come to weathering. And I can confirm it does wipe off very easily. So yes, we've got buff, medium grey and ochre, which came in the light fading set. So I think they're going to be an interesting thing to have a crack at. So just need to get to the weathering stage on one of my builds, and we can try those. Here you can see it's sort of suggesting a desert vehicle. You can use them for anything, and a lot of my aircraft that I model are dusty and desert aircraft, or certainly coming out of dry conditions. And to go with that, we've got airfield dust, which is an exceptionally good choice, I think, on their part to send me that. So that's going to be brilliant for the undersides of aircraft, wheels, and etc. So I've used these pigments before, and I must admit these are, they're very good. Among any pigment I've used, they're certainly up there with the best, and I would call the best the original MIG pigment that I've had from a long time ago, probably 10 years ago now. That seems to have changed over the years, but these certainly are very good. So interested in using those. And then we've got a set of washers here. I've also dabbled in the panel line washers, but I've never actually had the panel liners, which are promoted as specifically for use on aircraft panel lines. So here we've got stone grey for black, natural brown and stone grey. So obviously with the black and those descriptions there, they're aiming this at the sort of early RAF bombers, obviously with a black underside, but again very deserty sort of colours is well I'm imagining they're going to lend themselves to. So we will be cracking those out at the next opportunity, and I'll let you know how I get on with those. Now, I said that I'd had some kit sent to me from a manufacturer, and that manufacturer is Roden. So they were kind enough to send me out these after a couple of emails back and forth, and they're very different for the channel. And that's what I wanted, really. I wanted to be outside of the comfort zone with this. Now, I did wrongly describe this one as a jet. This is about as close to jets as we get for me. It's actually a turboprop, so I'm half right, I guess. And that's an aircraft that I didn't actually know very much of, and that's the Douglas C-133A Cargomaster, which is quite a sizable aircraft, and Rhoden has kitted this one in 1144, which again is a new scale for me. So we'll be having a look in the box at that briefly in a minute on this video. And also we've got, now this is something I have been keeping an eye on, which may or may not surprise many of you on the channel, but I do have an interest in armour, and I do like the things from World War One. I've built the A7V before, which was a wonderful release from Meng in the past, and this goes hand in hand with that. The Holt tractor, especially with the limber, they're all put together in one boxing, which I guess on the face of it actually makes a lot of sense, because in the past Roden have kitted the gun here, where we've got the 8-inch howitzer with the its lumber, so it's got the stand and the ammunition trolley running with it, and they also kitted the 135th Holt tractor a year ago, I believe. So it made sense to bung that together into one to create a nice boxing there. So we'll be having a look at that one in more depth. We'll do a standalone inbox review on that one, but the Cargomaster I actually want to crack on and build, so we're just going to have a flick through in this video, and then I'll actually start building that and probably put that up as a part series and do it in stages. But yeah, I just thought it was worth mentioning. This is a particular favourite of mine, because there was a good article in AFV Modeler, Meng AFV Modeler, many years ago, showing the ResiCast version of this, and that always struck a chord with me, as it were. So it's nice to have this one on the bench, and I'll be looking at doing a full build of that probably later in the year, beginning of next year, and try and maybe put it together in a little scene. So here we are with the Roden Douglas C-133A Cargomaster. Nice box art here from Roden, and it's showing the sort of size of the aircraft there. As far as I can tell, this is a Cold War sort of period aircraft, which was around in the sort of late period, I guess, so running into the 1970s, towards the end of the Cold War, and used for, obviously, as it would suggest, transporting goods around. So this is something that I think is an improvement for this kit, and the recent kits from Roden, is having colour callouts here for the decal and painting guide, decal placement and painting guide. And we've got one aircraft here supplied in the kit with the decals for a marking option, and this is SN 540137 of the 436th Military Air Wing, US Air Force, 1970. And here you can see it's standard. It's a silver bare metal finish, natural metal finish. Lots of chances for good panel, different paneling, and obviously working with the bare metal finish. And you've got the decals showing quite comprehensively the stencil data. You've got the walkway lines, which is very iconic of aircraft in the US Air Force of this period, as well as these horizontal red lines as well, which I'm afraid I can't tell you what they're for, but I'm sure a lot of you will know, so please let me know in the comments. And then you've got quite a nice selection of markings there on the tail, and it's a Military Air Transport Service aircraft for the US Air Force. Colour callouts here are in Vallejo. The decal sheet here as well, I can't really talk for the decals, obviously, how they're going to behave. But looking at them on the sheet, we do have large carrier film around, certainly the larger letters. It does shrink down for some of these other smaller decals, but the vast majority of them do have quite large carrier film around them. You've got all of the individual parts for the walkways and for the red areas over the engine nacelles and around the fuselage. These obviously you're going to have to line up to do this area for the walkways on the wing, so careful placement there, and fingers crossed that the decals are going to work with you at that situation. I know in the past some Roden decals, as soon as they hit water, they disintegrate. I must admit these look very different to those. It doesn't say where they're printed apart from with the Roden logo there, so presumably they're printed in-house. There's no cartograph logo, so I can't say that they're not printed by Roden. I can't see that that's obvious, so I'm guessing they are printed in-house. Hopefully they're going to behave well. Like I said, I'm going to have a go at building this one, so I'll certainly let you know along the way how the decals perform. Here are the fuselage halves, and as we can see, there is no ribbing that you've seen all the way through the instructions. So like I said, I think personally that's a good decision on that they've left that out. And now one thing that needs to be remembered as far as Roden's concerned is I think you need to look at them as a short run kit supplier. That seems to be the quality of what we're looking at, the way things are sort of designed to go together, and I feel in the past people probably expect a bit too much from them, and they have got bad press for, you know, one or two releases as they started off. Now we're many years ahead now, and I'm certain most people know what they're getting from a Roden kit, and they've done some lovely World War I aircraft, as well as some interesting aircraft right the way across the board. I've even seen there's an airliner just been released as well, which looks quite nice. While still focusing on this kit, we've got panel lines, which I think are actually a good representation. They are a little bit heavy, given the scale, but then again, I mean, what are you going to do? You shouldn't probably have them there if you're being true to scale, so you've got to go for something, and I think the way they've tackled this, I think that's pretty good. I don't think you can really argue with what you've got there. I think it's nice detail right the way across, cleanly moulded. There is a bit of sink marks showing on the outside from where the ribbing begins, and you'll see that more on the tail section. I'm not sure how much it's going to show through. You won't know until you get a bit of paint on it, but it's something you need to be aware of. Then talking of the tail section, here you may be able to see in the light what I'm talking about with you can really feel it with your finger all the way through here. There are sink marks on every time that there's a line on the inside, and there is obviously lines right the way through with this ribbing effect, and it's pulled the inside back in a little bit, the outside in a little bit. So again, it's probably not going to tell until you get a bit of primer on there. When you're looking at natural metal finish, it may be something you want to tackle with a bit of filler just to try and blend that out. Then we've got the cargo bay doors here as well, with no detail on the internal surfaces, a couple of ejector pin marks, but apart from that, it's looking pretty good. Then we've got the two wings, and as I said in the looking at the instructions, that's a butt join on these two areas. Again, the same panel lining is actually carried on through here with some more surface details. I think that's actually very good, to be honest. It looks very much what I'd expect for this scale. It's all very impressive at the minute. Then we've got another sprue here with just a walkway that really is just there to bring the two halves together behind the cockpit. And we've also got the areas where the landing gear goes as well. Again with the same surface texture all the way across. Nice details, recessed panel lines, and smaller hatches shown as well. Quite sturdy looking landing gear there, which is what it needs to be really. There's a big tab of plastic there. And they look very good. Then we've got the horizontal stabilizers. Again, same level of detail running through all of this, which is very nice. You've got you've got sunken injector pin marks there, and then you've got locating pins and holes to join all of that up, so actually give a nice strong join. And I think we've got the nose gear leg there as well, and the radome at the front. Then we've got 4 sprues, which each of them have an engine, each of them have the set of wheels, and they also have propellers. So that's how you get your 4 engines, 4 props, and your multiple wheels for the landing gear. Again, no defects across these, everything is the same level of detail, nice recessed panel lines, small amount of flash on the propellers, but again nothing to worry about, that will soon come off with a swipe of a sanding stick. 2-part construction on the wheels, so they're joined, but we've got smooth tyres, so again that shouldn't really be an issue. And nice hub detail there, actually, it's very nice hub detail. Again, given the scale, it's pretty well represented, I would say. And then one last sprue caters for all of the small windows that can be inserted from the inside, and then you've got the glass around the cockpit. I'll just look closely on that. It's actually very clear. That glazing, it's actually very good. It's one of the best I've seen from Rhoden in recent years. There isn't any scratches or any problem across any of it from what I can see. And nice good framing for masking. So that was a quick look at the Douglas C-133A Cargomaster in 1:144 scale from Roden. Again, as I think you'll agree, it's going to be an interesting build for the channel, something a little bit different. Get a chance to use some of those metal colours that we mentioned earlier, and generally just have a go at getting involved in something that should be a little bit different, should be relatively simple to build. It's a small parts count. Once you've got the engines together, the fuselage together, you're pretty much there, wings on, and job done, you're into painting. And I think overall it'll be a nice project. And I think finally it's worth just talking about what I've been up to over the last couple of weeks as far as the channel's concerned. So as I said, I didn't have much chance to get in here doing painting or anything, because putting on a face mask really wasn't something I was looking to do, what with jaw hurting and all the rest of it. So I decided to put some kits together just in front of the TV, and you know, when I could come in here and that sort of thing. So to keep my mind active, I cracked on with an entry for the group build, which I'm running on the Spanish Civil War group on Facebook. So this is the DC2 from MPM, which is a little bit of a tricky kit, but it's doing the thing I need it to do. It's was filling some time, and it's also a nice entry. And my main focus was on getting these curtains sorted, which I think is an effective part of the build already. So they add something quite good, I think. So I'm doing a video build of this one, and I have filmed how I did those, and I did it on the Cricut cutter. Cut out some sort of ovals of masking tape and glued them on the inside, so I'll be showing that more in depth. But just tonight I've managed to get this first part of the wing on. I did check how the actual rest of the wings join, and we're going to have one big gap one side and quite a smooth join the other, but I think that's just the way of it. It's been tricky up to this point. We've got a separate fin and rudder assembly. It's actually joined on as a butt joint, and well, I was just checking that earlier to make sure it's still straight. I think it's straight enough, just about. It's hard to show on camera, it can always look like it's bending, but I think that's pretty good. And I've actually glued that on with sprue glue, so that's going to all melt that together and hopefully give me a nice join there that I can sand back. So it's an interesting project and a long one on the go in the background. And I also put together, in true weekend fashion, a weekend boxing of the Edward Messerschmitt BF109E3. And I'll be doing this out of the box. This is not going to be a Condor Legion one. I'm going to do what I thought was initially a very interesting aircraft, and it now turns out to be one of the most overdone aircraft in 1/48 scale for a good reason, because Edward 109s are very popular. But anyway, we're going to plough on with this nonetheless, because I want to try the modelling, and that's the decals I've got. So this is going to be the Battle of Britain aircraft in autumn 1940, and it's the number one, yellow one, of the aircraft that had many liveries apparently, but I'm going to attempt it at this stage where we've got the splinter camo underneath and got the traditional basically highline ROM 65 running over 71 and 02, so dark green and well, the interior grey, with splashes of interior grey all over the wing, all over the side, all up the side with the dark green, and also the ROM 65, as well as the yellow nose and tail. So we'll see how that one goes. The kit went together extremely well. I think I put this together probably, as far as hours are concerned, I don't suppose it really took more than 4 or 5 hours to get to this stage. I've got all the parts separated now, just for when I feel like I'm ready to start spraying. So I've got everything ready to go. Exhausts are exceptionally well done on the Edward 109, so I've got them all separately ready and waiting for painting, and they can go in on the last stage of the build. I did use some etch seat belts that I've got, and there we've got the decal sheet, which is for the one marking option. So I'll let you know how that one goes on. It hasn't really been a video build. I've taken pictures along the way, and I will be able to put a video together at some point. I have, although it's very tight, I've left the canopy open, and if we can get in there, I can maybe show you some of the interior. You can certainly see the back of the seat and the belts in there. And as we go around, we've got the instrument panel with just the kit decals. It's incredibly hard to show you this. You can see the oxygen bottle on the inside there, and the blue, I don't know whether that's right, but that's sort of a blue pipe coming out. Painted up the little electronics part there on the side of the firewall, sidewall, and then we've got some yellow dials, and nicked from Hyperscale. I don't know whether that's right or not, but the red and white there on both wheels. It's what Brett Green did, so why not copy him? And that's it for this week's channel sort of update vlog. I haven't really landed on a name for these at the minute. Next up, the reason you're seeing this kit, this is what's going to be the next review. Soon to be built. It is going to be built in the next couple of months, but I've got a few things to get over the line. So due to be with you shortly is the Fuselage Storch, which I've built. It's ready, it's in the paint base, just ready to go, like I said, getting to the point of painting, so I'll get on with that one this week. And I've got a few reviews that I want to do throughout the week as well, and keep you updated. So it should be back to more regular posting, more regular videos, bit more building, and a lot more from the channel. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video.